The Nikon 850, a fantastic camera, even today, 9 years old. Why should you look at this film? Because you can learn from it and you can save a lot of money. Hello photography lovers, here a new episode, and this time a very special subject. The Nikon D850. And maybe you're thinking, why such an old camera? Because you know immediately it came out in 2017, that means it's 9 years old. And now I will not say that's a prehistoric camera, but as at the day of today, there are much newer cameras, but I warn you already, not better cameras. Whoa, that's quite a firm statement. Why? Now, meanwhile, you think from in 9 years' time there should be a lot of changes. Yes, they changed. Look at the size, feel the weight, but you can't do that over there. And there are some other differences, but this is my fourth day of the photography course this week. I have a Dutch lady this week with this Nikon D850. I'm teaching her photography step by step, day by day. She's getting better. And after every lesson, we're gonna watch the photos at the big screen here in my back. And 32-inch, so I can see it clearly enough, well enough. And every time I have the feeling in my stomach from, wow, this is so nice, this is so good. The sharpness, the details, the bokeh. While she's using the old 24-70 2.8 lens, which was 10 years ago absolutely not my favorite lens, but this combination, it does something wonderful. It's a miracle. Miracle is a big word. In 9 years' time, there's been a lot of changes. The prices went up. That's because of the dramatic fall of the sales from digital cameras worldwide. I believe I saw some figures that it's meanwhile 90% less than in 2014. That's a lot. With higher prices, you have higher expectations. But now I will make a firm statement that this D850 from Nikon is even today the best camera you can buy. And then you say, what? He's crazy, he's nuts. Now, maybe I am. But my eyes are not crazy and I see what I see. And day in, day out. I saw it already last year when she came for the first time. And I thought, what a crazy good camera. Unbelievable. So yesterday evening, I couldn't stand it anymore. And I went watching on the internet. And 45 million pixels. A Z7, Z8 from today have also 45 million, so they can be very well compared to this 9-year-old camera. And I can tell you, nothing has really changed. Dramatical conclusion. Because what happened then in 9 years' time? System cameras. I have here my Z5 and I have also a Z6, but that's filming now. It is smaller. One big advantage of the system cameras is you have a live histogram, you have an EVF, electronic viewfinder, so if you're standing outside in bright sunlight, you can always check well your last made photo, because then you do this, and when you keep your eyes away from the sun, you can always very well judge your last made photo. And while you're making a photo, you have your live histogram, blown out highlights that don't make any sense. Sure. Because if your highlights are blown out, it depends on the subject, I know. But that's a big advantage compared to the D850, because that doesn't work. That's a big advantage compared with the D850, because that hasn't a live histogram. Because we worked without a live histogram since 1995. And since a couple of years there's a live histogram since the existence of system cameras. And that's the big difference, except weight and size. The big surprise for me with this top quality camera is that no, I first went looking for at what price can you buy this camera, and I was totally shocked because if I went to the npb.com website. They're not sponsoring this video, so don't worry, because that's where I looked for some information. And I also look sometimes to camera prices second-hand, because yeah, the new cameras are really, really expensive. And it's hard to bring up the money for buying as a Z8 or a 7 Z2, or later on there will be maybe a Z7 III, I don't know. There are a lot of rumors, but still I have to wait and see when they come out and what it will be. So I'm just talking about what's exists at the moment. And there are quite some people who believe in a circular economy, and I think that's a good thing. Because if something is really good as a second hand, why should you buy a new one? And I know that camera manufacturers don't want to hear this, because we have to buy new. But what's happening with the second-hand cameras? And if I come up now and saying that a 9-year-old camera is better than the latest camera, it's just a little bitty tiny bit, but it is a little bit better. And then we have to watch it closely, because that is interesting. If you don't have money enough, if you believe in a circular economy, and that's interesting. Now I'll bring out the big word. This the camera today. I found two. There are lots more at npp.com, and for 1,349 euros. Let's say that's the same in dollars. Yeah, I know it's not exactly right, but it's well enough. With just 20,000 clicks. Besides this, I will later show you a photo over me, or in the screen, or picture-in-picture. No, not picture-in-picture, because that will be too small. There's another one, 70,000 clicks, 50 euros more expensive. So that means 1,399 euros. But that's less money than you buy a Z7 II today, because that costs 2,799 euros new. Okay. It's smaller, it's lighter, EVF, live histogram, and this is heavier, more bulky, but it is 1,300, sometimes 1,400 euros or dollars, less expensive, and that's a real lot of money for, I think, a lot of people. Quality point of view, I can say a lot about it, but when I look at this camera every day with it coming up on the screen, from the photos made by the student, I think, wow, these colors, this sharpness, the bokeh, the unsharpness in the background, combination with the 2470, which was absolutely not my favorite lens, and beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And that made me thinking, why should I buy a new camera? So, this tip from me, maybe it sounds odd, but can save you a lot of money. Besides this, a lot of people with the old DSLRs are changing into system cameras. So they're also changing the old lenses. So you can also pick them up at the market for very, very reasonable prices. Not too expensive, and even this lens, which was not my favorite, at this D850, it works really, really well. The big advantage with Nikon cameras is, but you have to blame me, but I will explain that later, is that you can use them in the mix. This camera is meanwhile 4 or 5 years old. This is an old Z5. This is an old D850. Contrast, colors, saturation, they're exactly the same. So if you're a wedding photographer, a sports photographer, or a photographer who doesn't want to change lenses, you can use them in the mix. And if you use the same settings inside your camera in JPEG, you can't see any difference, because they're exactly the same build. And if I come back to the color point of view, then you have to blame me, because now maybe you know, maybe you didn't know, it was mentioned at my website, but in the past I worked for Nikon Europe, and as well for Nikon Japan, and I developed with Tomino-san, big Japanese guy, and David Ward from England. Three of us, we developed a Nikon D1. That's still my little baby. I'm still proud of it, because that changed the whole history of Nikon with digital cameras. Sorry if I say Nikon, Nikon, that's just a matter of accent, and I'm not naturally speaking English guy or American guy. The Americans say Nikon and I say Nikon, yeah? And the Japanese say also Nikon. In 1998, during the World Championships Athletics in Sevilla, and I was working there for a long period, and we invited the world's best sports photographers, and every night they had the chance to work with the Nikon D1, and every night I was checking all the cameras, all the results, and then in the middle of the night, and it was in the early morning in Tokyo, calling in Tokyo. It's not Tokyo, but somebody who's working there, and I said, "Hey Tokyo, change the green a little bit in the midtones, change the yellow a little bit in the highlight, because it's a little bit too yellow, because I'm absolutely color sensitive with my brain and eyes. That is something, yeah, that has grown with the years." So these colors were made in 1998 with the Nikon D1, and they're still present in the D850, because that's the successor of the successor of the successor. But it all started with the D1, and I'm really happy. So that's why I blame myself. Yeah, the colors they were made and chosen by me, and because I decided that in Tokyo, and Tokyo was listening to me, because I was the photography specialist with the photography knowledge. Okay, not too much honor for myself, because this is just a side path, yeah. Because I was saying that you can use both cameras in the mix, and that's why. Because Nikon never ever changed the color settings in the internal processing, and that's a big advantage. For example, with Fuji, they change it nearly with every series. That's not completely true, but the 1 and the 2 series were completely different than the 4 and the 5 series, and forget the 3 series. Because with every camera they come with new settings, new colors, and they're different. So if you use Nikon and Fuji in the mix, you have a problem, because they're different. So, but enough about Fuji, yeah, because we're talking about this Nikon D850. My main point is that's yeah, and it's hard to believe, but I see every camera every week during my photography courses. Nikon, Sony, Canon, Fuji, Panasonic, whatever, Hasselblad as well. I'm really in a position that I compare them to each other, because sometimes they're in the mix, the cameras from different manufacturers, and I can tell the differences. I see the advantage of one brand, I see the disadvantage of another brand, etc., etc. My main point remains that you can buy the best camera that you can buy today. And I know it sounds crazy, it sounds absolutely crazy, that the best camera today is still a 9-year-old camera. I went to the website for mpb.com, I started looking for, they have lists, they tested sensors, they test cameras, and if you look at the level of sensors, then, big surprise. This one is still #1 in its rating, and then I leave behind the Pentax 645 and the Hasselblad, because they're even higher. But the 100% score is, let's say, perfect. Perfect doesn't exist. 0 is nothing, 100 is perfect. This one has still a score of 100. They have 3 columns. The first one is portrait, that's measured with color depths. Then they have a column with landscape, that is the dynamic range for landscape, quite important. And the third one is sports, that is the measuring method for ISO and how much noise there will be in the photo. This camera, except for the ISO, is still the best camera, 2 out of the 3 categories. But if I compare it, and I leave Sony and Canon behind it, because the top 5 is just Nikon and Sony, but the Z8 has a 96 or 98 score, The Z7 II is, has a better score than the Z8. But it has 98, 96, 98, 100, that's it. So this one is now 100% score, the Z7 II, which is actually a better camera than the Z8. That's also a hidden secret. But it's a little bit better than the Z8, but the Z8 has other advantages. But I'm not here to talk about the latest cameras, I'm talking about an old camera. If you don't have a lot of money, but you still want to have the best camera, second best is also good, but okay, yeah, you understand what I mean. Hey, buy an 850, score it somewhere at mpb.com, have a look at the local store, maybe they have still one in stock. Look always at the shutter click amount, because if you buy this one, the D850 with 250,000 shutter clicks, you do have a chance, maybe it will go on for ages, but you do have a chance that it's also nearly end of life. I can't tell you this because I don't have enough experience with this, because most of the time people are changing the cameras far before they reach a shutter click count of 250,000, and guaranteed I believe it's 150,000. So try to find out how many shutter clicks there are on the camera. You can't see this in general inside the camera itself. How MPB this is doing, I don't know, but they will have a special app or software for it. The camera that I found, let's say 1,400 euros, 20,000 clicks. It's excellent, it's a bargain. I will say it's not the bargain of the week, but it's the bargain of the year. Because with this quality, for that kind of price, it's unbelievable. Okay, I hope this could help you with future decisions, or if you want to change camera. One more time, yes, it's heavier, yes, it's more bulky, but you save a lot of money. Okay, thank you for your attention, and next film will most probably, knowing me, a completely different subject. Okay, see you next time.